I know. Did you get on the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're running all these.
I'm sure it is. Your sister's deciding me.
Okay, let's see. Let me get it. Always find this.
No, I know.
It's always Mr. Down. I can get in there.
I know where you're
What's that called?
2 days, yeah.
Is it 871?
We're going down. Yeah, okay, okay.
Well, somebody just left. Tell him to try again.
No,
Maybe I'll get the kids. Sorry, guys, for the delay. I'm giving it just a couple more minutes. Brian Kennedy's actually at the stoplight, so I'm gonna wait for a second for him to get here before we start.
The 871 disappeared.
If he doesn't get pulled.
If he doesn't get pulled up.
Yeah.
Hush up. That happens to all of us.
That's right. That's happening.
Well, 871 left, so. Hot now. Easy complaint though. Because I said, everyone said, he don't want to. Well, I guess I'm not gonna complain too much, because I'm ready for the summer, but.
They said it's fine. He said he never has. Change my shoes.
He probably will, yeah. Must be nice to get up to it. Well, you don't, you start the yellow testing next week, right? Or are you doing it this week? Okay, one of them. And then the TSA, BOM. Okay, though, like everyone does.
I have tried that. Yes. It's 30 years ago. I think that's I think so. He's gonna have to do a dance and a jig. We'll give him 2 more minutes and then. I don't want to waste it.
Yeah. And he didn't get pulled
Please
over.
come up with some.
Sorry, I'm late.
You have to do a dance and a jig.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Either that or you get detention, it's what I hear.
that's not a problem. That's not.
You're tardy.
They were just surprised at the Well, the heat came on a few minutes ago and it got hot real fast. Okay, it is 6:05 again. I apologize for the delay in the meeting. But I would like to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Gilmer County Board of Education to order for April 25th, 2022. Tom Minnie?
Here.
Jason Barr?
Here.
Brian Kennedy.
Here.
Dr. Miller. Here. Tammy Huffman. Present. Alex, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda, we do have delegations this evening. We have 10 individuals. So what I would like to request is that if there are more than one of you that are speaking on the same topic, if you can maybe appoint a representative, if at all possible. If not, you each are allowed 3 minutes to speak. So the first person that we have up is Kylie, which she's not here, and I think, Kara, you're going to read on her behalf. And again, if you guys can, please be cognizant of the time. All right, you can go ahead.
As most of you know, the GCHS academic banquet was yesterday. The banquet was to recognize the students who show academic excellence and celebrate their achievements with a nice dinner. I am an honor student. I have maintained all A's and B's my entire life, maintained a 4.0 GPA or higher, scored past 12th grade English instructions on benchmark testing, and was accepted into honor society. I have worked tirelessly to have good grades, and I have yet to be recognized for it this year. The GCHS administration selected the top 2 students from each class, not grade-wise, to attend the banquet. Not only did this method not recognize everyone of academic excellence, but has discouraged me and others. This is not the first incident within GCHS where they have done this. I am tired of working so hard year-round to not get recognized for it when the time comes. I was told by a friend that attended that it was said they made for selections, but also students who maintained a 4.0 GPA or higher were invited. I checked my report cards and I have maintained a 4.125 GPA all year.
Sorry, guys, I keep walking this thing over, so you're getting it. All right. Nicole Williams. If either place, if you want to stand at your seat or if you want to come to the podium. All right, go ahead.
Good evening. After much soul searching and praying, I address the board this evening on behalf of Gilmer County High School students. First, I want to acknowledge the achievements of the students that were invited to the academic banquet this year. All of the students that were invited deserved a seat at the table, but there were several other students whose GPA should have earned their spot at the table as well. However, they were not invited. By speaking tonight, I don't want to take anything away from the students that were honored Saturday evening because they deserve that recognition. I want to shine a light on the students that, for whatever reason, were not invited to the academic banquet. We all know sports are an important program in a successful school. We all celebrated the girls' basketball team when they were runner-up in the state basketball tournament. If we had treated the celebration the same way the academic banquet was treated this year and only honored the top 2 or 3 scorers in the tournament, how do you think that would make the rest of the team feel? I think we need to celebrate all of our athletes in every sport for their victories, but for many reasons, some students do not participate in sports. Reasons can include transportation, expense, and schedules. For some of the students, academics may be the only thing they are recognized for during the school year. My husband and I were these students as we did not play sports. By not honoring all students with a certain GPA, previously 3.5, you have taken away what could be that student's chance to shine. Mr. Minnie, one of your comments at the last board meeting referenced you have high expectations for students and staff in Gilmer County. I have given a lot of thought to that statement since last board meeting. That statement also reflects my own beliefs for myself, my children, and also my students. Every year as a Gilmer County teacher, I am required to set 2 goals for the year. One is in reading, one is in math. These goals are placed on my evaluation at the beginning of every year. At the end of the year, to earn a distinguished on my evaluation, I have to meet these goals. I am proud to say that in 19 years of teaching, I have met and exceeded my goals. Again, what if teacher evaluations were treated the same manner as the academic banquet, and that only a select few could be distinguished in that category, even though they have met their goals? This could have a negative impact on the morale and effort in all instructors in Gilmer County. If this were to happen, it could cause some division in schools because it would seem like favoritism rather than goal accomplishment. It is my understanding that the amount of zeros placed in the live grade system played a role in selecting students that could attend. I know the zero policy in place by the administration requires a zero be put in for ungraded assignments. I know because I've spoken to many parents, this is a source of great stress in many homes in Gilmer County. Administrators can apparently look at the grades and see how many zeros have been in place for the year. However, to my knowledge, they cannot see the reasons why zeros were entered. Zeros can be entered for many reasons, which may be, but are not limited to, a student being absent, even if the absence was a mandated quarantine or an excused absence. Zeros that are entered before the assignment is due. zeros that are entered because the assignment has not been graded, assignments that have been lost and had to be redone, lost by the teacher and had to be redone, assignments that have been lost and found by the teacher or by the student looking through the ungraded stacks of papers on the teacher's desk. And of course, it could be due to the student not turning in work. As an example of the devastation this can cause to a student, I'll use my daughter. When she was placed on a school-mandated quarantine and by a close contact in December, right before the end of the 9 weeks, she left school 7 days and 1 week. When she returned after her 5-day quarantine, it was only 3 days and a weekend. She had 2 F's, 2 D's, and a C, all due to the zero policy, and she finished with 3.875 GPA.
Thank you, Nicole. That's talent right there. I need you to read. Sorry. Did you get it all right?
Mostly, yeah.
She's the best.
Kara Anderson? Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Carrie Anderson. I'm currently a sophomore at GCHS in half-good grades. Every single year since I started going to school in Gilmer County, I have been invited to the academic banquet. My grades, along with my other peers' grades, are very important and take a lot of time and effort to maintain. Last year, I finished out the school year with a 4.2 GPA. My sister finished with a 4.1. I was shocked when my mother informed me that my sister got an invite to the banquet and I didn't. I felt confused because I had worked so hard and didn't even get to go to the school's banquet. I then realized that my grades were no longer important, only my teachers' opinions on me. I was disappointed because none of them valued me as a student enough to care whether I was recognized for my hard work or not. However, then I talked to my fellow honors classmates and came to find out that many of them as well were not invited. But it didn't matter anyways, because by then the school had canceled the banquet altogether so that nobody got recognized. The banquets used to be about celebrating kids' hard work and effort towards their grades, but now it's turned into a banquet for all of our administrators' favorite students. And it is sad that it's come to this. Grades and education seem to have sunk down on the list of importance at our school. I found a quote the other day by John Wooden that really speaks volume to this whole situation. Fairness is giving all people the treatment they earn and deserve. It doesn't mean treating everyone alike. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michaela Taylor? Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Michaela Taylor, a sophomore student at Gilmer County High School. I've maintained at least a 4.0 GPA through my short high school experience. I'm involved in sports, I take honors classes, and I have no disciplinary infractions until very recently. With that being said, I was not invited to this banquet last year. However, I was invited this year with the same amount of hard work and a suspension. Last year, almost all of my classmates who got invited had similar grades to mine. This not only made me feel jaded towards the school system as a whole, but also made me feel utterly betrayed by the adults who are supposed to support and better me as a person. This bitter resentment has stuck with me throughout this last year and has honestly made me feel less motivated as a student. You can't expect students who excel academically throughout school to stay motivated when all they get in return for their work is letters on sheet paper. These are not only my thoughts, but the thoughts of my peers. I have spoken with a few of my classmates about this banquet, and the most common theme is that they felt deceived by the system. You cannot expect students to thrive academically when they feel trapped in a system that will only tear down their confidence. With that being said, the idea of a banquet that celebrates honor students is an amazing way to motivate and boost morale of students. However, the execution needs to be better. Picking students in a seemingly random manner doesn't award students. This makes it feel like a popularity contest and a slap in the face to students who work hard for their grades. Thank you.
Would you like to share with us why you were suspended?
No, we can't do that.
John Hunter. Would you like to speak on? Here we go.
Good evening. I'm John Putnam. I'm principal of Gilmer County High School. Tonight, my professional contract is recommended by Superintendent Loudon for vote by the Gilmer County Board of Education. Given that we have 3 appointed members of the board who were not involved in my initial hire, I would like to describe my professional experiences in education to the public and to this present board and offer them a copy of my resume. My experiences include middle and high school science teacher, principal, central office administrator, West Virginia Department of Education coordinator, senior researcher, and several other executive positions at the national level. Aside from professional positions, it's a specialty in curriculum alignment, blended professional learning, summative assessment, and research. I have supervised as many as 300 employees, managed several multi-million-dollar contracts concurrently, and efficiently coordinated large programs on the national level. I have very specific experiences related to supporting school systems and making transformational change in curriculum and assessment through data-driven technical support, that employs best practices and programs. I started as a middle school science teacher for 7 years, later moved on to a high school chemistry and physics position. Then I had an opportunity to work at the West Virginia Department of Education, where I was the state science assessment coordinator. I led the development of West Test in science and social studies. Later on, I co-led the curation of West Virginia's submission to federal peer review. I led the professional development of assessment curriculum to county leaders and managed the West Virginia Science and Math Partnership for the federal government. I also worked for Advanti as a senior researcher, and I was the director of assessment for the Appalachian Regional Comprehensive Center, providing technical assistance to 5 state education agencies, specifically in the context of formative and summative assessment. In 2010, I took a $40,000 pay cut to serve in my home community in Roane County to be a pre-K through 8 principal in Walton, West Virginia. My school had 400 students, 45 staff members, 1 secretary, and no assistant principal. During the first year of my tenure there, we raised the assessment scores by 6% in reading and 13% in mathematics on the state assessment. Over the next several years, I was promoted to several county administration positions. Can't see the display on the time. I began as a district transformation specialist, retooled an entire school system. Later on, I was promoted to the director of personnel. I was also supervisor of curriculum. I was interim superintendent of schools and worked 2 jobs at the national level for Discovery Education and National Science Teachers Association. I am pleased to be the principal of Gilmer County High School. There's nowhere else I want to go. This is not a stepping stone. To me, this is a pinnacle. I'm glad to be home in Gilmer County. This is a job that I prefer to have. I appreciate the consideration of Superintendent Lowther's recommendation of my employment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a special education teacher at the high school. I've been back in this county for about 5 years. Prior to that, I worked in other counties through various roles, mostly in special education. I've also been a social studies teacher. I also subbed for 5 years. That gave me an opportunity to also experience what other schools have to offer. And I am here to tell you that Gilmer County High School has a lot going on for it. Number one, the choice to put cameras throughout the school was an excellent idea. And I'm not going to give any certain group or person credit for that. As a teacher and as a professional, any professional working in the school, a service person working in the school, or I would think being a student in the school, it feels a lot safer coming to school just knowing those cameras are there. So kudos to whoever's idea that was. I understand that it is to be used, a lot in discipline, and sometimes there are issues that go on that don't necessarily deem disciplinary action, but I'm glad those cameras are there. I'm glad that they're reviewed. As a special education teacher, I personally am with male students lots of times during the day by myself, so I'm glad they're there. Number 2, so we have safety as number 1. Number 2, the bar for achievement has been raised. Not everybody gets a trophy anymore. So, there are people that are going to be upset because they didn't get chosen or whatever. And speaking to the sports background, not every basketball player on the basketball team gets a first team or a second team or a third honorable mention team selection. There are going to be 1, 2, or 3 people off of a team that maybe gets recognized on a higher level. So you can relay that over to the academic banquet if you want to. It's not necessarily something, but it is a correlation that we as a school system have to raise the bar. We can't continue to give everybody a trophy, because what happens in the real world when you go out, not everybody wins, and you don't win all the time. So you have to learn to take your losses. You have to learn from those losses, and you have to move to the next level. 3, I think the atmosphere of our school right now is in a climate where we're going through change. It's administrative change. And as far as decisions that are being made, as far as the processes that are being used for whatever. That is common across many different kinds of disciplines. As a doctor, you start out doing an internship, and you do that probably for a year. Okay, and then you practice on your own. And later in life, you know, if you're good, people know you're good. I had my children, speaking from personal experience, I went to the best doctors I could find. So I'm going to just leave it at that. We have got to raise the bar in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yoder?
Hello, I'm Eric Yoder. Most of you probably know me. Some of you may not. I came from a different school system. I have been through 30-some years of teaching. I've had multiple principals come and go, supervisors come and go. With this, there's change. And when there's change, everybody becomes uncomfortable because each administrator in each facility will have their own ideas. Everybody here's had a boss that's changed boss. They'll have new ideas, some you like, some you don't. Get your feelings hurt. People get butthurt over things. It's all how you handle it. If improvements come, I see improvements. Are mistakes made? Yes, everybody makes mistakes, you're human. But how you handle it and how you correct it are another thing. I see good things happening in Gilmer County High School. This community is very tight knit. A lot of them don't ever see what's going on. I've been with lots, like I said, lots of administrators. And I would say this system, elementary through high school, ranks in the top of what I've had. I've had some really good administrators and I've had some not so good. But I think this system has something going on here. Now, are people's feelings hurt? Yeah, sometimes things get overlooked. You know, I've made mistakes. I'm sure everybody else has. How it's handled afterwards. And I think that we're trying in this school, trying to get everything for the best of the students. Positive things happening at the school. At the beginning of the year, I heard students complaining about this and that. Now they're all saying, I like this, because it was change. People were uncomfortable with change at the beginning. And now change happens, then they become more comfortable. So I do see good things happening here. So whatever anybody decides, remember, I've been through it. You can always get the worst administration than you have. Same with the board. You can always get a worse board. Things happen, but you got to deal with them. Winning is important. Learning how to lose is a more important goal in life. Anybody can win. If you come in second, you're still successful. It's up here that matters and in your heart. And I know if anybody was overlooked, I'm sure it was probably not done by being on purpose or a vendetta against somebody else. Things get oversight. Things happen. And believe me, when you're in education, it's a lot like a lot of this paperwork. So there are things that do get shoved off in the shovel. I just want to let you know what I see from an outsider sort of coming into the system. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark Yoder.
Well, I don't really have a list of things to say, but I'm going to speak from my heart. I've been in education for 34 years. I retired from Maryland to come here, and I chose Gilmer County. I chose Gilmer County out of every state where we could have moved on retirement. And the reason is because of the people here. And your school system is fantastic. I have had the opportunity in the past 33 years when I was a teacher in Maryland to go into different systems. I went into different counties. I actually looked at different programs as part of some of the things I did in the state of Maryland. And I am just overwhelmed by what you have here. This year, we were able to go to see a play, which was provided, and all the students that wanted to go could go for free. And I had full support on that. We did the actual play, and the senior class came through, and I thought that was a lot of fun and a good learning experience for them. And I really like the fact that if I have a problem, I can go and talk to someone and you listen and you support. And as a teacher, that is very, very important. If things happen that people get upset, I'm certain. I know that when I had to make my selections for the academic banquet, I looked at my students, I looked at GPAs, and I took that. That's what I did personally. I don't know what other teachers did because I wasn't involved in all that. And I don't know what happened last year because I wasn't here. But I really wish that I had been here because this is a great place and you're all great people. So I just wanted to let you know how I feel. And I want to thank you for the support. Students here are fantastic. Even your worst students are still great. They're nothing like I've seen before, and you have great leadership here. And I hope that you continue that. And I hope that we continue to move forward as a group and to work for the better of the students. I don't know what that is. I think I've said what I need to say. Thank you for the opportunity. I have 50 seconds. But, well, for those of you that came to the play, thank you. And for all the support that I've gotten from everyone in the administration, thank you. Because if it wasn't fun,
Hey,
I
thank
wouldn't
you
be
for
here.
awesome play, man. That was great. I loved it.
I always said, because I don't have to work, I'm already retired, but if it stops being fun, I won't do it, and you all have made it fun. Administration, people, groups, community, you've made this fun for both my husband and I. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Laura Chapman, and I teach business education classes at Gilmer County High School. And I will say that the current administration has definitely raised the bar as far as high expectations for students, academically as well as behaviorally. I think that a lot of people are upset because kids are actually being held accountable now. But as a teacher, I will tell you that we cannot effectively teach in a school unless the students have rules, boundaries, and consequences. If the kids rule the school, you can't teach. So I appreciate the administration and the effort that they've made in order to make our jobs just a little bit easier. Second, I would like to speak to the academic banquet as well. I feel like the administration's job, and I also feel like the Board of Education's job, is to represent all students, not just one contingency. By changing the standards for this banquet, we had special education students in attendance and other subgroups of students that would never have had the opportunity to have attended if the GPA requirement were not changed. When you have a special education student who has never, ever been commended for anything they've done, I was there, I saw their eyes. It meant the world to me, and I know it meant the world to them. It was just obvious to see. Their parents were so excited. Those students worked just as hard as a 4.0 student to become the best in their subgroup. And I think that it was a positive, very positive thing. And I think we have a great administration, and I'm at the school.
Last one, please.
I drafted a speech, but as my students know, sometimes my best lesson turns out to be something I just bring up on a whim. I've only been teaching 5 years now. I went through a few different administration changes, and with each administration change, it brings worry to me. Being a semi-new teacher, I still consider myself novice. When the first administration that I started with changed, I was hesitant, and I was like, do I want to go home? I'm not from Gilmer. I'm from Barber County, not too far away from here. But Barber County and Gilmer County, Ms. Lowley could probably attest to this with superintendent meetings and stuff, we're not that much different. What keeps me here is I've interviewed in a couple different places. And I've seen what those schools and communities have. One of these was back home. I didn't graduate from the school I was applying for, but it's a lot like Gilmer. It's a little bit bigger, but very much like Gilmer. We take a lot of pride in our school. And I chose to stay here in Gilmer because I love the community. I love my students. They are why I do this. I love to teach. I love to see school functions happen. I'm at pretty much all sporting events. You don't see me sometimes because I'm either running the clock up in the field house at the football field, or I'm down on the floor at the football at the basketball games. But I'm in it for the students. I'm there to support the students. And we also need administration there to be able to support the students whenever they need it. I have seen some administration who does not support students academically like this administration has. To hold students accountable is something that really needs to be put in place. An accountability system will help raise our students to the next bar. I am currently in my process of getting my degree in educational leadership, and I see some of these things and see some of these different changes in administration, what some administrations have done other than others, so on and so forth. And accountability seems to be at the top. To hold students accountable, grades, athletics, discipline, hold them to a higher standard, and that produces a better product. We want great students, and right now Gilmer County has some awesome students coming out and still coming up. Like my freshmen and sophomores, a couple maybe sitting in the audience, great students. They're always there to help you when you need it. As a couple of them, I'm always asking for suggestions on how to better myself from my students. And I'm here for the students.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody that came and spoke. Appreciate you guys. Do so. We'll go ahead
to see all this interest.
We'll go ahead and move into the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the April 11th regular meeting. Does everyone have the opportunity to review? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have one transfer student for next year, Aaron Samola, from Braxton County to Gilmer.
I move we approve the transfer there. Second.
Good first and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Do transfer. Right.
Good evening, everybody. I have for you tonight on the treasurer's report. In your packet was the schedule of checks to be written. I believe the day the packet, after packets went out, the financial statement for the month of March 2022 was uploaded, and I sent that out to you via email. Are there any questions on either one of those financial documents?
Just out of curiosity, I wondered is there in the courses Gilmer County? I just wondered what that was.
That is, what is that?
Virtual school.
Virtual school, West Virginia Virtual School.
4,200. Okay. So that's like for
The online, where they can have the option to take online courses. We have the county wants to pay for that.
how many enrollments?
Yeah. Actually, we got kind of a benefit, they cut it in half.
Yeah,
As much as what it was.
last year. That's what I wondered.
So, I mean, as much as that is, it should have been double. Is there any other
I wondered
questions?
about the graduation. The work county?
That's grad 2020 that we work with Deanna Swain, and she actually provides guidance and support to the high school to increase graduation rate.
good at work?
I don't have to write an improvement plan for it this year.
That's it. Well, money well spent.
Questions?
Entertain a motion to approve the
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
The purchase is over 5,000, you see the one there for the Advantage Technology, for 35,728. 34, I believe that is for this camera.
It's what I gave to them at the
Upgrade.
last meeting, where you can see the foot for the wireless upgrade at the
Yeah.
elementary school.
Sorry, I said camera.
That's okay.
Which she did speak to us at the last board meeting and told us, gave us all the information about that, and said it would be on this
That's
agenda, so.
The other purchase there, I believe was presented at the last meeting as well under information. That is the educational food service mobile vehicle, that that's 100% grant funded. Kind of one of those things that, do we do it? Well, the money's there and it benefits our students and community, so why not? So that's what that, purchase to Tesco is. Are there any questions on those?
I don't have it. Entertain a motion to approve purchases over 5,000.
So moved. Second.
It's been first and second. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not abstaining.
Because of, okay. All right, one abstain. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Recognition of students and staff.
This is
Fun
my
part.
This is my favorite part of the meeting. This is my favorite part.
Yes. Yeah, where is our, I don't know myself.
Where's the food truck?
You can come over after. Well, I showed you that wonders with the camp stove, so.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to start by saying that the pathways for success following Gilmer County High School, those pathways include more than just college. We definitely encourage college, and we want students to achieve and be able to reach things like the Promise Scholarship and good SAT scores, and higher education has its place, and I'm a proponent. But career and technical education, more and more, is becoming important to our kids in Gilmer County. And our programs are growing, and our kids are excelling. And even programs within our own building, we're adding a new business administration type of CTE coursework. Mrs. Chapman is here tonight, along with things like animal processing on the part that's on the agricultural side of science, even within our own building. And we're glad to see these things grow. Two of my children went to college, and one's in college right now, and well, they're both in college. One's in pharmacy school, and one's an undergraduate work. But my third child will not go to college. My third child went to the Career Center and entered a CTE program there, and that's what he will do after he graduates high school. He'll go to WP and an electrician type school there. And I think it's a very wise choice for him. As we look at these awards tonight, all of the awards that we're going to recognize are in that CTE component. I can't take much credit. That school is not underneath my roof. These are Gilmer County High School students, and we're greatly honored by their accomplishments. They have been, all the four that we're going to look at tonight are state champions in their fields of study in career and technical education. And what we would like for them to do, when we call their name, we'd like for them to come up, tell a little bit about their program and what they've done, this wonderful award that they've received, and what they plan to do following, because there's some other competitions that's going to come up after this, where they represent the state of West Virginia. More so, I'd like to also say that in our hallways, if you notice when you come in to our gymnasium, we took a little bit of space there, sorry, Mr. Frazier, from the athletic area, and we put up a couple plaques with pictures of kids that were state Microsoft winners and had the opportunity to compete nationally. We're going to do the same with these four. We're going to obtain a good picture. We'd like to put them up right when you come in our gym and recognize these four students that we're looking at here tonight. So I'm going to ask you guys to come up in no particular order. Ryan Baron is going to come up first. He is a state champion welder. He's going to tell about his experiences and even what you've done this past weekend, which is kind of outside the state of West Virginia. Ryan, if you would. Cool.
So last month I was given the opportunity to travel to Fairmont and compete against 19 other schools from across the state in welding. And I was able to walk out there with a gold medal. Last weekend, well, this past weekend, I got to travel to Kentucky to Kentucky Welding Institute, which is just a school, and compete against around 130 or so other people, and got seventh. So, well,
Wow.
Talk about the scholarship, even if the ones you're not going to take. Talk about the scholarship. I'd like to hear this.
So, for getting first in the state, I received the $18,000 scholarship to Tulsa Welding School, which is located in Jacksonville, Florida. And then for seventh place, I received a $4,000 scholarship to Kentucky Welding.
Awesome. Great. Before you go.
You're going to hunt fish, weld in the spare time, right? All right, we're going to step right around and get your picture real quick. Mom, right, somebody take a picture first. Shake your hand. No, there's pictures. All right. Now,
Chris.
all right. Thank you, Ron.
Wait, Molly.
All right, one of each. We also have from our Gilmer, or Calhoun Gilmer Career Center. We also have Mrs. Ferris that's here with us, and she's an instructor there as well. And give kudos out to Brian Stern. He has worked really well with us. Oh, Jim, sorry, Jim. If you ever see my old Fairlane on the road, it's because Jim worked on it and put it back together for us. And so I'd like to thank him as well. I'd like to recognize Daisy Snyder and invite Daisy to come up and tell about her award and where she's going next. Sure, let me get to you. All right, sorry. All right, Taylor.
We got to hear Taylor's music, everybody. So Taylor and I are in the same Technology Student Association chapter. So with this, it's a STEM-based career forwarding like competition. It's called a conference, but it's a whole bunch of competitions. So it's stress-inducing. You're up till 2 a.m. and then you have to get up at like 7 a.m. the next day. And then you're running around trying to figure out your competitions. But we placed first in 3 different competitions. We placed first in on-demand video. One of our seniors placed first in prepared presentation. So she had 3 minutes to set up her stuff. She had to give her presentation and she had to take it all down in 3 minutes. She got some of the highest scores that they have ever seen. And then Taylor and her partner, they placed first in their music production, and she'll tell you more about that. But our on-demand video, we had 36 hours to create a video on site at Cedar Lakes. So it was crazy. We had snow, we had like almost 80-degree weather, we had rain, we had hail, we had everything going on all at once. So
All 4 seasons.
yeah.
Yes.
So we had the tornado watch. So our main actor, he would throw off his jacket, take off running for the shoot, and then he'd come running back and get his jacket back on.
The video was more, it was exercise, and you think if you warm, we even had to do a sweat scene where we had to get a water bottle and splash water on his face when he was shivering. And I'm gonna take a video of trying to make him, like, it was
Dedication.
yes.
We had so much fun, and we were all in like 4 to 5 different competitions each. So we were all super busy, and so we barely had time to get this on-demand video in. And so once we got it in, we were like, thank goodness we got that in on time. But our prompt was we repeat lose your seat. And so we did an exercise video of him running and moving his feet, and then we talked about him losing his but it was really cute. It was fun. And then I'll have Taylor tell you about her.
Okay, so basically before this, I had no clue how to use these different programs to put together the music. So basically they give you, if you want to call it a prompt, I guess. So they're going to be playing, or you'd be making music to be played at, and so I was trying to think of something upbeat. So I used GarageBand, and GarageBand is just basically an app where you can have pre-made different short sounds that you can put together and make a big song. And then use CapCut to put different short bits of song together to make a big one. And so beforehand, I had no idea how to use any of that, and my friend and partner in this, Riley, he taught me how to use that. Our song name was Roller Coaster, and we named it that because in the beginning it's rock, and then it goes to dubstep and rock again. So you don't expect the music to change, and I was thinking that it was like a roller coaster when you don't expect someone to drop something. And I was very happy we did.
And so since we placed first, we get to go to nationals in Dallas, except for none of our juniors are able to go this year. So all of our seniors get to go. And so hopefully our team next year will get to place first again. And I plan on going to cruising and going through this again, despite all that fear. But they're going to Dallas, and we wish them the best. Yes. Is this music or video available somewhere if we wanted to see it or we're not able to release them until after all the competitions are done at national. So once all that is done, I will talk to Ms. McCormick about sending it to you guys. Okay.
Tell her there's no free lunch.
That's next.
Yeah.
Maybe you should call the finger platter.
I jumped in here. Yeah, I can't.
That's awesome.
Not to give any favoritism, but this next category area is one of my personal favorites. Alex White, you can come and tell it. Alex is an outstanding football player, but he has other skills.
So I go to Gilbert Calhoun Career Center, and I work in the culinary field there. And we were given the chance and opportunity to go compete at the Greenbrier, West Virginia, for a state competition. And after months of late night after school practice and everything, we went. And we have 2 folding tables just like this, and now 2 campfire burners, and an hour to make an appetizer, entree, and dessert. And we have 20 minutes to clean everything up and get out of there. We did that, very stressful, and we didn't find out who won till the next day. So it was a pretty sleepless night. And we went, ate, and we were announced as first place, which was very, very, very exciting. And I'm so thankful to be able to go to Washington, D.C. this May 6th through the 8th and compete against 440 students to hopefully win nationals. And if we win nationals, then we get to go to internationals in France. And that would just be amazing. We had 3 different contestants on my team. We had person make the appetizer, me made the entree, and someone else make the dessert. It's Hunter and Pepper. And for the appetizer, we made a vegetable vignette, which had onions, carrots, and zucchini in it with a batter that we deep fried into little balls with a tzatziki sauce. And what I made for the entree is a blue lamb with hard seared Brussels sprouts, almonds, peppers, and garlic with a parsley and potato mash at the bottom with the balsamic vinegar glaze. And for dessert, we made 3 espresso brownie shots with a homemade caramel layer on the bottom with orange zest and spiraled sugar as steam coming out the top with a cafe cremor on the top of it.
Wow.
And Alex cooked for everyone at the LSIC meeting the other night. He and his team prepared. We'll tell them what you prepared.
Yeah, we had roasted pork loin with a sous vide vegetables with a pork sauce on the bottom and a I don't remember the name. Duchess potatoes, which is pretty much mashed potatoes, piped in a little swirl, and other
They were
And yeah, it was good. I had some.
It was very good.
Yeah, even cold, they were good.
Thank you very much, Alex. That cup of Corbett is just full of life.
That you can watch the competition, you can go back to Kathy Gilmer on Facebook Live, and it should be posted there. And you can hear Alex say stuff about it.
Yeah, it was very.
I thought I was gonna pass out. Oh my God, Tim was at work and it was, it was stressful. It was stressful.
Gilmer County has some great students.
I can't be the only one that's hungry. The peanut butter sandwich and handful of Cheez-Its that I had after school and between here aren't gonna cut it. But it is awesome to see all of the normal school things happen. It's starting to feel normal again, and all the exciting things that we're able to do in schools just feel normal, and I think we're all ready to get back to that. So I just have a few things to share that have been going on in Gilmer County Elementary. It is a crazy time in public schools right now. May in schools is interesting. We have annual reviews of IEPs, lots of meetings, evaluations, observations, all these things that we have to get in, and we also have to make it worthwhile for students. So we have a lot of really important things going on, fun things going on, normal things going on that I'm excited to share about. This week we are administering our benchmark assessment. So this is our end of the year benchmark assessment. Next week we're going to go into the general summit. So that's the big end of the year state testing that we have. I believe that we're ready for that. Our schedule is made for that. Our Tracy Wall, our testing coordinator, has made our schedule. I mean, you can't beat when the schedule just falls in your lap and says, hey, here you go. So we really appreciate that kind of support. We're really focused on our interim module assessments this year that have been supplied from the State Department, which allow us to see standards to the rigor that we're going to be assessing. We've used those as an instructional tool all year, so we are hoping that that pays off in our academic achievement. Time will tell. This past week, we took a field trip, our honor club, and I've spoken to this board before, not long ago, about some changes that we were making to our honor club. And so our club took a field trip to Glenville State University. And if you've heard anything about it, it was a great field trip. Our students loved it. Hard to really get past lunch, though. I've talked to a lot of people about it. It was a buffet. They didn't get one trip. They got as many trips as they wanted. I know one student that had 4 steaks. So, but you can't beat it. It was a great opportunity for that student, and they had a great time. But really, every student I talked to said, yeah, it was great. The lunch was awesome. So it was really great, but I think it was very worthwhile to those students. We had some visitors this past week, folks from United Bank. We had Teach Child to Save, to where they visited the school and visited several classrooms to go over how to save money, just a life skill. We really appreciated them coming in. Weir's actually another one of those, and that may be her last visit before retirement, so that's a big deal. The last thing I want to leave you with is we had a spring luncheon. This has been something that I discussed in my interview here at Gilmer County Elementary School. So when I interviewed, I said, hey, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do as a principal. And what happened about a month and a half, 2 months later, a global pandemic strikes us. And so we have to keep masks on and 6 feet apart. So we were not able to do it. We tried twice. Once we had to cancel a food order, we got so close to it and we had to cancel it. So we were finally able to pull it off. But talk about, and I've said this because I've done this in other schools as well, it's going to be one of the toughest days of the school year for staff. It's one of the toughest because it's just exhausting. You're moving from the minute you're preparing. It's exhausting, but it's one of the most worthwhile things that we can do. It's an investment in our community. It's an investment with our relationships with our parents. We had 222 parents and families that joined us. Now, this was our first one. We did have to limit that to 2 per family because we didn't know what we were getting into. So we learned a lot from this first luncheon. We're going to do this again. We think this is a once-a-year kind of thing at Gilmer County Elementary School. Next year, we're going to do this for Thanksgiving. We think it would be great to be able to bring our families in, have a Thanksgiving meal at school with their child. But when you factor in staff, all students, all parents, there were upwards of 700 meals provided, which is amazing. You think about our child nutrition staff, that was a huge lift for them, and they pulled it off amazingly. I appreciate Mr. Frazier's support with that. And Mrs. Lowry, we got an extra cook, an extra custodian to help us out for the day. Our Title I staff were amazing. Shelley helping just organize the whole thing and bringing folks together. So it seems on the surface, it's just, hey, bring some folks in for a lunch, and it's great. But if you were there and you saw it from behind the scenes, you'll know that it was a logistical, it could have been a nightmare to put together. I'll just say there's a lot of work that goes into it, but I could not be more proud to work with the folks that pulled that thing off. I take zero credit for it, but I'm just glad that I was able to partake in that. So from one food conversation to another, I appreciate it. It was really excellent. So if there are no questions for me, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to be quicker than Joe. That's my goal. Every time. A lot of things have been going on at Gilmer County High School as well. We had a professional learning day on the 18th of April. We talked about strategic planning. We had a couple of different strategic planning meetings. I'd like to thank Ms. Mason for coming up and helping us with those. We've been working on establishing our pacing guides and aligned lesson planning on the PL day that we had, recentering the focus upon academics. Developing this year, we developed an electronic classroom walkthrough matrix, and we've been trying to get out in the classrooms and do some of that. We reestablished our local school improvement council. We actually had local school improvement council meeting. We looked at behavior as the main focus of that meeting and looked at some of the data from the referrals that we had this year. And we, of course, this year created our professional learning communities, and our school leadership team has met a couple of times as well since the last meeting that we've had. Some recent events, we had our SAT school day assessment for all of our juniors. That was a pretty big day. We thought I saw that and was like, that's a big lift. Today, we started all the GSA testing for 6th through 8th. We also have added PSAT for 9th grade and 10th grade. And Tracy DeWall will say, never again will we put that on the same week as GSA. I'm going to buy her a t-shirt that says never again. Because we will put that on our SAT school day. That's what we'll do next time. Just because of the difference across the programmatic grade levels and all the staff that we needed. We've trained about every person in our staff that we can train to help us this week. And we're having school, as you well realize, for the rest of the school. So it's a huge lift. Hats off to the assessment team, Mr. Payne, Tracy DeWall, Daniel Reed, Michaela Fox. They just work so very hard to bring all this schedule together. It is something to see. We hope that we make it through this week. I haven't told you yet, my wife, but they sent lasagna for the assessment team at the end of the week, so that's coming too. We got the chance to attend a jazz concert at Glenville State University, thanks to Dr. Barr's invitation. We had just a couple days to prepare for that. We called up central office, and Superintendent Lowder said, we're gonna make that happen somehow. And I got in touch with Mr. Frazier, and he said, I can get you 2 waves of buses. We can make it work with the buses. We were on the phone with different people trying to figure out how we could take kids over there. It was a phenomenal concert. What an experience to get to go over there. And I don't know if this is a stellar group of seniors you have, or if this is typical of what Little State University has, but wow. I mean, it was such a good experience. We always appreciate those invites, and we had a great time.
Thank you, sir.
Had a great time. We had a senior play that was mentioned this first time in several years. Great reviews. Thank you, Mrs. Yoder. Basically, my role with that was saying, yes, we'll make that happen. Yes, we'll get our chairs back from elementary school. Yes, we'll push the stage back. Yes, and all the work she did and orchestrated that with the staff and did all of that work, all that planning, and had many more lines than I thought they would ever be able to remember. And the kids were just incredible. It's so much fun, and you're stuck now doing that for so many years, because now the juniors are all excited about next year's play and they get to be in that. We have a great start to our sports season. I'll leave that to Mr. Frazier. He can tell some about the successes that we've been having. Our academic banquet was a success. We had less kids this time, but it was a very intimate and very special evening. We had we announced every single kid's name. And we said, just like you would at a basketball game or a football game, I want you to cheer, I want you to holler, or don't save your applause to the end. Every single kid's name, I want you to cheer as loud as you want to. Come up, get your picture with them. And it was a wonderful evening. The food was good. Not as good as Alex. We have also developed an informal committee on social emotional learning, empathy, and bullying prevention. Given some of the things that's happened recently, we've got a little group of us that are looking into programming that might help this, especially with the middle school group of kids. We're seeing some trends there. It's a little bit disturbing of how kids treat each other and how they don't realize what they say and do on social media and even in face-to-face conversations, the effect that it has on kids and the depression it causes and the effects that it's having in discipline as well. So we're looking into some programming there. Update on that as that moves forward. To save you some time, I have a calendar of upcoming events, and I'll just give you that calendar. And you can see those things that's happening in the month of May. It's extremely busy. Everything from athletic banquets to more academic recognitions to graduation. I forget about graduation.
That's the one that was posted today.
No, we made an update to it.
Well, please.
There's one update, actually. It's pretty much the same thing. And you'll notice on the 10th, no school, Alex, on the 10th. That's election. But you know, as you can look out through these things, there's some concerts coming up and banquets when report cards go home, the last day for students and so on. So that's all I have. Thank you, unless you have questions.
Prom this weekend.
Prom is this weekend. Yeah, prom is this weekend, and my son's going to one in Calhoun County too. So he's going to 2 proms on the same day. Good job, Calhoun County. We'll work on that name, try to change it to Gilbert Calhoun. You hear that?
Oh, yeah.
That's what Alex called it. We have a lot of kids.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Do you have a question? Well, I was going to ask him the last day was for seniors.
So seniors last day, they go on a trip, on their senior class trip that starts on a Saturday night about midnight. And then we'll be gone and we'll come back about the 24th. But the seniors will come in for a senior assembly on the 25th. Now their grades will be due on the 19th. So all grades and everything will be put in the system. So as far as academic performance and being able to, that pretty much ends on when we have to have grades. But they'll come back on the 25th and then they'll be kind of off. Maybe that'll be a skip day. I'm not sure what they do on the 26th. And then graduation will be on the 27th. But all day on that 25th, we'll have senior assembly. We'll travel out to the elementary school and like we did last year, and then we'll go out to the Waco Center. We'll have graduation practice through that day on the 25th.
Are parents invited to the senior assembly?
Parents may come to the senior assembly.
We're gonna try to do the lunch again, like we did last year.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna have a luncheon for the kids on senior assembly day.
Is it just parents?
I don't know.
In the past,
I just asked because we have out of state people coming in.
In the past, it's been open, I mean,
Yeah.
senior assembly.
Yeah, especially, when they receive those scholarships and awards, we've got a group of folks I'm not on at all that's managed, called the Secret Squirrel Group, and they help with decide which ones get which scholarships, and they've been meeting. It's a tedious process, and I've not been on that committee since I've got a senior. However, you want to see those scholarships, you want to see those awards, so we'll get as many people in there as we can. Celebrate those good things. Any other questions? All right, thanks.
There's no way I can make it through Joe, so I'm going to. You go right ahead,
The despair of Mr. Puffin said I will speak about things, and then they get on to me about how am I speaking. I am going to just jump right into it with some facility updates. We've got a lot of projects going on that we've had going on. The GCHS steps, the high school steps, the only reason I have them on the agenda is to tell you everything's completed. Everything's finished. We're happy with the result. And that is, that's a done deal, and we're very happy with the result. That'll be the last time I speak about that. The secure entry at the high school, that is moving along. On Thursday, April 21st, we held a mandatory pre-bid meeting. So what that was, if you were a contractor and you want to bid on the secure entry work at Gilmer County High School, you had to be at that meeting. We were happy to have 5 contractors at that meeting. So I think we'll have a good competitive bid. Obviously, with the bidding process, the more people you have bidding, hopefully the better price you get. A couple of those contractors we have worked with before, we're familiar with. So just happy about that representation. Now, that doesn't mean all 5 will bid. That means you had to be there to bid. So the most bids we get will be 5. Hopefully all 5 do bid. We will open bids on Thursday, May 5th at 1:30 here in this building. That's when the bids will be open. We will bring the bids back to this board on May 9th. And we'll make a recommendation to this board of who we think should be the successful contractor. And then obviously this board will make the ultimate decision. If all goes well and we do make a decision, we hope to start that work early June, first week of June, with the anticipation and the hope that most of that work will take place during the summer months and have the majority of that work and finished before students return in August. Any questions at all about the secure entry at Gilmer County High School? Perfect. With the ESG, with the LED lighting, I'll give you a quick update of the 3 facilities where we're at right now. Here at the board office, we are almost completely finished. We are just missing a few screw-in lamps, and those are just little light bulbs basically in our little closets, in our little bathrooms. And then this facility will be completely updated, renovated with LED lighting. At the elementary school, we are everything's finished except for 3 classrooms upstairs and the lighting in the stairwells. So we're very, very close at that facility to having all LED lighting. At the high school, we have the stairwells, some battery backups, and again, a few screw-in lamps. So what they are waiting on right now is just material. And it's tough to get material. So they are in a little bit of a holding pattern right now, just waiting to get material. Once they get that material they're waiting on, they believe in 2 nights of work that they will be completed. And we'll have another thing checked off the list, LED lighting in all 3 facilities. Any questions about the lighting? It has moved very quick, and I don't want to speak for the principals, but I know here at the board office, there were no issues, and Mr. Price and Mr. Puff have not been calling me. I think the company, Mon Valley, they've been excellent to work with, and communication's been excellent. So far, very successful, and really hopefully the county and Clay will start seeing those savings, those energy savings right off the bat, and we should start seeing that now. So that project's moving right along. Any questions on it? With the HVAC, a little bit of bad news to report. And we've kind of put this in there every time, being able to get materials, being able to get what you want to work with. And across any area right now, sometimes it's tough to get anything. The bulk of our units, which are carrier units, the bulk of our new units have been pushed back. I reported to this board, we hope to get them the 1st of June. Now our anticipation date is late July. So that's a little bit of bad news, but we want to be open and transparent with the board.
ESG has told us they are working with the manufacturer. It is a manufacturer issue in this delay. So they are working with that, trying to get moved up, but they are telling us right now it's late July for most of the new rooftop units. And now they are telling us they will be ready for work when we get them. They still think we have a chance to at least get the units on the roof. Because that'd be a crane in the parking lot, especially at the high school. And they still think if we get them late July, that we will at least get those units on the roof, maybe hooked up, not finished, before students return mid-August. So I'll keep reporting on that one, and I'll try to keep the board updated. With ESG and HVAC, our bipolar ionization units that we've requested, the ones that will go at the elementary school on our HVAC units that we already have. We're not replacing those units. We're just adding this on, and for simple terms, we're going to have cleaner air. The idea is that we'll have cleaner air in our school. Those are anticipated, those GPS units are anticipated to be in the second week of May. So when those units are in, they will start work on that immediately. So we will see some HVAC improvements, hopefully very soon, as long as everything follows the timetable that the guy gave me today. So that's that area. Any questions about the HVAC work? Okay. Also, the animal processing classroom at Gilmer County High School. On April 13, we had a routine visit. Anytime we turn in a project to the SBA, there's an SBA representative that's assigned to Gilmer County Schools. So we met with Tommy Young. We, with the superintendent, Mr. Putman, we had Mr. Cox as our in-house expert on the animal processing meet with us, and then Clay met with us and myself. We met in the hopefully future animal processing classroom. He went over the project with us. The only thing I can report to the board, it went as well as it can go. And I know I keep telling you this, but I've been a lot of these. We've turned this project in for about 5 years now. This was the most promising of a routine, mandatory, check the box type meeting that I've been a part of. This representative, Tommy Young, I think we have his support. And we need his support because he's going back to the SBA group and he's selling our project. He's scoring our project. With the educational component, I do think our project is going to score better than it's ever scored. I know I mentioned we turned it in the last 5 years, but we are going to score higher. There's a rubric they go by. This piece, we've got more in depth with it. We added the educational component, and this project is going to score better. We will find out the result on June 13th. And we've had a lot of conversations with the board on that. We know that we've got kind of plan A, plan B, and plan C. And we know which way we're going to go depending on the result on June 13th, but that's a big day for us. And again, I can't say it enough. I think if you talk to Mr. Cox, he was super thrilled to be in that meeting. He was super thrilled the way that meeting went. It was positive, and I don't think it could have went any better. So that's where we're at on that. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope on June 13th that we get great news. And again, the great news in simple terms for our large crowd tonight, if we are awarded the project, I think we're going to have animal processing classroom at Gilmer County High School that would have all the bells and whistles. It would be turnkey. We would have everything you'd ever want in it. If we don't get awarded this money from the SBA, Gilmer County Schools, we thought ahead and prep, and we have a pot of money sitting there, and we will get a functional animal processing classroom. We may add to it down the road and build it in a way that we can add to it down the road as funds become available, but we're hoping for a good result on June 13th.
Should have had Alex speak.
I won't speak too much about it, but Mr. Cox took care of it. And I'll just leave it at that. I think Mr. Cox did as well as he could do.
Well, that's good.
And there were a few promises made, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Deer Jerky might have been involved. I'm not sure. But yes, it went as well as it could go. Don't really want to speak about this a lot tonight, but just want to let the board know this is going to kind of start hopefully soon being on my agenda of facility updates. We've been meeting with Mr. Price, the architect, Clay, the superintendent. All these needs are Gilmer County High School. And even though we have that facility, we're in our 6th year at the elementary school, the biggest need they have is the storage building. And Mr. Price has spoke to a board or several times about that. And that's still there. That's still on the agenda. Right now, we're kind of in the phase of we know how much money we have towards that. We know what our budget is. We are working with Williamson Schreiber as our architect firm to see what their fees would be and then to see if they can build the type of building we want, the storage building, the size we want, and with future plans in mind with the storage building, and just, we want to see where the money ends up. So we're just in the very early stages, just discussion phase, in the discussion phase. We will definitely bring it to the board before anything is decided, and ultimately the board will make the decision on that. I just kind of wanted to remind you, it's been a little while since we spoke about that storage building, but it is the elementary's biggest need right now. And it is something we're still actively working on. So that's all the facility updates I had, unless the board has any questions for me, and I am sure I'm going to miss Putnam's time.
Stop watching.
You still have to talk about sports though.
Well, as long as the time stops, I'll talk about sports. Thank you.
One question about that storage building. I was under the understanding that there was money in the levy to maybe build that building.
When it comes to talking money, Mr. Mann, I would like to stay in my lane and defer to Clay. And I know Clay's had to leave this evening to watch his daughter play ball. I will tell you, I will ask him to speak about that at a future meeting. We've had to be creative with the money. The money is there, and we've had to be creative of how we need to do that.
I think Tyson spoke on that at one of the board meetings about the storage building funding.
I have, but, and I will just reiterate what Joe says as well. The money is there. Sometimes you have to take money from this pocket, put it in this pocket, and be able to spend it for some reason in education. So working with Clay to do that legally is what we're working on.
That is very well said. That is basically what we're doing. We need to move certain monies that can be spent on certain things and buy this to have the money to do this. Nothing illegal. Nothing's going to get us in trouble. Nothing bad. I would have said it out loud if it was. But it's all good. But I'd rather Clay speak to that, Mr. Manning. I'm not trying to. All right. Anybody else? Thank you, guys.
We're gonna have to leave, but thank you all for having us. We gotta get another job. Come on. Thank you guys very much.
Just for our high school staff, there are high school students and families. So you're welcome to stay for the board meeting, but typically that's what happens. We take some pictures. We recognize the students lots of times. They go ahead and finish their evening. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. If you want to depart, you're not being rude at all. So let that be up to you.
I was excited for everybody to say.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. All right, so.
Yes.
Hold on, you got.
I'm getting a complex. They're leaving. I'm up. And I do want to speak a little bit about the mobile feeding unit. I talked about that last time, and then you had the information in your packet. I did talk with Ben Connors from Tesco. I told him that it was going to be approved tonight. We'd be able to move forward. He emails me back and says, this is a really hard time to hold on to things, and that particular bus is gone. He said he is working, and he hopes to have this week something very similar to replace that with.
We knew that could be a possibility, though, so.
Yes, and I know Joe has talked about it, and it's just hard to get things right now. And the things you do have leave quickly. So he is working. He said he would do the very best to try to get something that is very similar in nature, just because of the requisition that we are having approved and the dollar.
Is there a way that we can give you the leeway to act on that when it becomes available?
Well, what I'll do, because the requisition just says the Tesco mobile unit 90,000, and if it is similar to that, then we would use that. If it's
unless it went over that dollar.
Yeah, unless it exceeds it.
Yeah, that would be the problem, and then we would have to go back and get approved again. Hoping that it's a little bit quicker this next go round, but I don't know. I just don't know. But he is working to get something else for us. And the other thing I did want to mention, and I know it's been talked about at the board meetings, is our last day of after-school tutoring for the elementary and the high school will be May 17th. We did extend that so that students who are struggling or still needed a little extra boost would have that, and that really takes them very close to the end of school, just a couple weeks away from the end of school. So that is still going in and will continue until May 17th, and that is open to any student who would like to participate in that. Mr. Putnam did talk about the PSAT 9 and 10 and the GSA for the high school, but we did also start the elementary assessments this week. That window has opened and teachers do have the leeway to take those assessments. We do, at this time of the year, we take PALS, which is a phonological awareness screener. That assesses our kids in pre-K to, depending upon the need, clear up into 5th grade. But all pre-K, kindergarten, first and second graders get some form of that. We also do the ELRS, which is primarily preschool and kindergarten, and that just is an assessment to where they use their anecdotal notes and observations and complete that. And then along with the STAR math and reading for our kids at the elementary school. So the ALC is actually being assessed this week for the GSA. So that's just an update on the assessment piece. Any questions on those things? The other thing I wanted to talk about, I'll have 2 more things. The gearing up, we're gearing up for April 18th, summer school. April 18th we met. Summer school will run June 16th to July 29th. I met with Ms. West. I met with Mr. Payne. We are looking at trips to take. We are looking at primarily focusing on attending the state parks, going around the state and attending those and visiting those parks. We are focused on also providing programmatic types of instruction at the elementary. It'll be through Save the Children, just as they do in the after-school program. So again, we encourage kids to attend that. Any student who's interested, please feel free to contact me or Ms. West. At the high school level, again, they will be privy to those and visits to the state park. We also encourage them to come. We do Odyssey wear and different types of STEAM activities for the kids, along with different types of healthy choice activities. What were those dates again? For summer school, it's June 16th through July 29th, and then I had met with the coordinators on April 18th. Thank you. Any questions on summer school? Yeah, it would be. Because in my mind, that's how we would help with those trips and feeding. Something that's going to be on the agenda soon or in the near future is we have been doing some looking at our data in our PALS and our STAR. And one of the things that we have talked about and is a deficit for Gilmer County is our phonics. Phonics for kids is lacking. One of the things that we did this year is I have requested different phonics companies to do some packaging for us, to put some information together. And we did review 2 programs. One was Sunday or Sunday. It's a phonics program, and it's based off Horton Gillingham. And then we also did the Reading Horizons, which is also based off Horton Gillingham. That's a multi-sensory approach to trying to teach phonics. You listen, you hear, you see, you touch, you physically do different things to try to get the phonics down. After reviewing, I worked with the elementary school and had a committee. We worked with the Title I, the instructional coaches, we worked with academic coaches, we worked with interventionists, I worked with Mr. Price. After reviewing both of those programs, we did lean toward Reading Horizons. I did request additional information so that the staff could review that. And I do think that we are going to probably purchase Reading Horizons for our Tier 1, 2, and possibly 3 interventions. So that is something that's going to be coming up. And again, it's going to enhance what teachers are currently doing at a universal instruction or Tier 1 level. Currently, they're using Haggerty.
which is a phonics program, and we have seen growth in that. But we do need something to support and continue on with that instruction with our tier 2 and 3 students. And those are our kids that generally receive intervention or Title I. And I did, this is one lesson out of the program just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like and how it's broken down. It's scripted, it's very intentional in the different types of phonics that students need to learn to read. So we are excited, and we are going to meet this week to talk about just how many programs we are going to purchase for teachers and who specifically we do want to use that. And again, that's with a team of interventionist coaches and Title teachers.
Subject matter experts in the area, basically.
Yes, if you don't have buy-in, then sometimes it's not very beneficial. Any questions on that? And I'll give you time to look at that. And if you have questions, you can ask them.
This will be on the next.
Where do we cut our worksheets?
Good job, I'll give you a sticker.
That means I better help you.
Yeah. You like old cops.
So it will be over the 5,000 mark, just even if we buy it for Title I, right? And then the training together would be over 5,000, and that money would come out of the Title I funding.
So this will be on the next agenda then?
More than likely, I need to put it's in my budget for the consolidated plan, and it'll be just a little bit before it all shakes out, but it'll be soon. We'll be soon then. Any other questions?
Nope.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh my! I'm always at the end, and I always feel like.
Save the best for last.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
First of all, I do want to thank you all for supporting the technology upgrade, wireless upgrade at the elementary school. And when Joe, I think, mentioned it's our 6th year. That's crazy. And that is so hard to believe, and you know how quickly technology changes. And so that will be, I'm certain, very much appreciated. And I put in your packet the attendance summary for last month. And I am not going to address attendance right now. I looked at it today, and we have, chronic attendance. There's just, if you look at one thing, and there's just so many things that shoots out from it. And we are going to have to, and I keep telling you, Michelle Workman, she's our truancy diversion specialist, and Michelle had it was a statewide meeting virtually, but attendance all over the state has declined. And of course, we couldn't provide structure with COVID. And then this year, there were so many variables, things changed. You can keep your child home without a doctor's excuse. So it's just, we are really going to have to re-educate again, with what they're allowed to do, not allowed to do. We will need to address part of our attendance policy again, because driver's license, I'm certain you all saw, where now attendance and grades do not play a part in a student getting their driver's license. So it'll just be back to the drawing board. And then Shelley and Michelle and I had met, and we're brainstorming. We're just trying to come up with ideas that at the beginning of the school year, making parents aware. We have what I would consider, excellent parents, but somehow that slips their mind that they need to write an excuse, if their child has been absent from school. And then another thing that with the chronic absence, and this kind of blows my mind, because you think that if I have a doctor's excuse and I send my child back to school, that counts as an instructional day lost. So with chronic absence, it isn't. If you're excused or unexcused, it is all of your absence for that school year. And that adds up quickly. But anyway, I'm not talking about that tonight. Because I have an opportunity for you. And don't be.
On your wallets.
No, well, it is a little bit. At the last board meeting, when Mr. Minnie was asking some questions about personnel and superintendent recommendation, and, that he would like to be able, and I was sitting back there, and there would be times I think, Mr. Minnie, I'm not certain that we're allowed to do that. And so I thought about us pondering on that. And so I contacted Bowles Rice. And of course, they're, our lawyers. And I sent an email with Patty's blessing, to Rick Boothby. And Rick's the one that normally works with us. Rick, and I had just asked, what would be, what would be the cost of what I called just like a mini workshop? And, and I explained that, just to put everybody on the same page to where because you all are responsible. Not only am I responsible, Patty responsible, you are responsible. And so that you will know exactly what we are allowed to do and what you're allowed to see. All of these things so that we know that we're doing exactly what the law says that we can't do. And so Rick, of course, referred me to Howard Super, the guru, well, and I spoke with Howard, and he thought it was an excellent idea. And he didn't tell me which county, but he said that there was, and Myra, please don't write this. I don't know if this is, I'm not saying names or anything, and I'm not saying a county, but a board member had contacted the personnel director and basically tried to influence a personnel decision, and that board member was fined $5,000.
Wow.
Wow. And so there might be, and there really might be something that you could even be doing in innocence.
Don't tell them what I was asking you about.
Brian, my person. That goes way back. But anyway, so bottom line is, and Howard gave us the option virtual, or he could come here in person. Of course, I said virtual, because if not, we would pay travel time both ways at his hourly rate, which is $450 an hour. But then he also was kind enough to let me know that that he had people on staff, lawyers on staff, that were perfectly capable of doing what he could do, what he could present, and their hourly rate is $260. And I said, well, would this be 2 hours? He said, no. He said, I think that's overkill. He said, it'd probably just be an hour. And so that would be, and of course, I told him you all would decide whether or not you all wanted to go that route or not. And so we're basically talking about $260. Well, thank you for looking into that.
I think that's a very good idea. My only question would be, should we wait, because we're gonna have 40
I would
board
suggest
members.
you wait until the next group of elected board members. Okay, but that's just my thought, because, and again, a lot of those board members will also go through the training in Charleston as far as legal ramifications, as far
What
as
do you
personnel
think,
too.
I think it's a good idea that for the new board to have the training, and I really appreciate you doing this, Judy, because I think it's something every one of us needs. You're responsible, the principal's responsible. When it comes right down to it, the board makes the final decision. They're responsible for anything that any employee we hire does. So we need to be in the loop, and I've had a lot of things that I would like to ask the lawyer.
It didn't sound like it was very expensive, so it's something that can be done once.
Oh, anytime we would want to schedule.
Right.
They'll be happy to spend their money.
I was thinking a minute ago about the parameters of his kindness for board.
Well, we take it down to 260, but usually somebody else. And another trick of the trade that I do, I always write an email, because I know that they're looking at the amount of time it's taking them to read, and I figured they could read faster than if we had a conversation. A true story. Yep. So I email.
Just my personal opinion, I think it would be fine with me to wait for the new board.
Okay.
So that all the board members can get the training and have an understanding what they can and can't do.
Okay. Does everybody feel comfortable with that? Then I will just contact him and let him know that we will be back when. Any questions?
So maybe, that's not a major cost, I was gonna say, just make sure that we have to cover that when the new board's elected, do it within what, a month? of them being elected, give them time to get their feet wet.
Depends on what the other trainings and stuff are.
They're usually in the fall.
There's an orientation in June.
There's
Yeah, there's one right
orientation,
after
they
you
have
get
to, do.
elected,
They
yeah.
have to do in June. Any questions for me?
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we are now into business.
We have an out-of-state field trip request to Kennywood for May 26th for the 4th and 5th grade honor roll club at Gilmer Elementary.
Second. Been a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Let's go to Kenny.
Yeah.
Those are always highlighted trips.
The time I went there was a big storm,
All right, policy 1030.
which is the board meeting for approval. It was out on review for 30 days.
I've been reading over it, I just had one thought, that Tammy had mentioned it. Not being able to have an executive session, do we need to put something in there about like if it's COVID and where everything's virtual?
Yeah, I think putting a clause, adding a clause,
Because if we can't meet in person.
right, adding a clause that if we have to go 100% virtual like we did during COVID, where we can't meet in person at all, that would be the exception to that executive session process.
So
So you're saying you want a clause to make an exception to have an executive session virtually
If we are 100%, now that's not a few people here and a few people on, that is if the meeting is conducted 100% virtually.
I think that's another good question. They are super. I'm not too sure that we can do that.
And there's other counties that are doing it, so, I mean, hopefully we can. He'll say yes, but I know there's a couple counties that didn't exclude it from their policy, so.
So
Ask Ken what he would recommend.
are we going to approve the policy tonight or?
I make the motion that we, place it on review for another 30 days.
Second.
With the clause, with the clause added and approval from legal. Just been a first and a second. Any other discussion or additions to that clause? Was there anything else in that policy that stood out to you guys? Like, we didn't have any public comment, correct?
No.
No.
I don't have a problem with anything else.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion back on review. Any old or unfinished business?
No.
All right, we'll move on to personnel.
For professional, I have no recommendation for professional. For service, we have Frank Postlethwaite for custodian, Gilmer County High School, Randy Poling, custodian, Gilmer County High School, Jennifer Harper, special education, classroom, transportation aide, Gilmer County High School, and Donna Fox, early step coordinator, which is a new position that we talked to you earlier about, and we'll work with families with children that, help me, Shelley, that are not in school yet, but will help them hook up with services to help make that transition smoother. So and it's funded through Save the Children. Do you want me to just go on with all of it? Okay. Extracurricular, no one. Probationary contracts for 2022-2023 professional, Morgan Allen, Ashley Barker, Julie Busby, Janelle Chenoweth, Katrina Frederick Howes, Sonia Hartshorn, Kelsey Hickman, Alicia Martin, Avon McHenry, Allison Moss, Faith Norris, John Putnam, Allison Ramazan, Leslie Shiflett, Amanda Sink, Leah McIntyre Smith, Barbara Yoder, Eric Yoder. And continuing contracts for professional, Casey Hill, Daniel Hill, Wesley Self, Taylor Somerville, and Laura Stone. Probationary contracts for service for 2022-2023. Jason Bailey, Harry Canfield, Brandy Castile, Joshua Godfrey, Christina Hacker, Heidi Lindsay, Stacy Smith, Stacy Stoniker, Ben Stewart. Continuing contracts for service, Moore, Vicki Gordon, continuing, Vicki Gordon, Rose Harper, and Lisa Moore. And then for the 2022-2023 RIFs and transfers, the RIF would be Jesse Moore, and the transfer is Leah McIntyre Smith.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second to approve the personnel list as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Superintendent information, when you surround yourself with wonderful people, they tell you everything you need to know. So I'm not sure what else I can add to that other than I really appreciate the hard work that Joe and Judy and Shelley and John and Tyson continue to do. They work very hard and at everything they do. Invite you to look at the calendar to come out and participate with the events that's going on. I'm sure Tyson will have a field day. And as those events happen, I'll keep you abreast of them and I'll let you know through the emails that I send you if something else would come up. But one thing I did want to mention was ESY, which is extended school year for special education students, is July the 5th through the 29th. So we do offer summer school for that population as well as therapy so they can get their speech and OT.
Is that 5 days a week?
It's 5 days a week, yes.
All right, board member comments. I did want to make a comment. I got a bunch of compliments the other day, and I'm not sure who is in charge of all the posting for the Facebook pages for the elementary school and the high school both, but the community seems to really appreciate that. There's a lot of things that they don't know that goes on, such as the stuff from the Career Center, calendars, things like that. So I've gotten a lot of compliments from people in the community saying it's great. Facebook is their avenue for information anymore. Sorry, Myra, unfortunately, they don't read newspapers very often. But that's kind of their go-to, so I'm not sure who else in charge of those, but appreciate that.
I'd like to say that, it's nice to see all the kids getting involved this evening. But I do have, I think, valid concerns about, we're saying we're trying to rise the bar, expect more, but can we really expect students to do more to reach a bar when we don't have the bar defined? When we're just basing it on opinions and, subjective information instead of objective information. So it's not fair as adults for us to sit here and tell the students that we're raising the bar, but not tell the students what the bar is. So if the bar is a 4.0, if you have to have a 4.0, then the kids need to be aware of that. The bar used to be 3.5, apparently the bar is no longer 3.5. And I don't think we should take away from kids' achievement who have reached the 3.5. And, I felt like we were trying to take away from the kids that have worked hard that weren't honored at the academic banquet. If you want to have a banquet and you want to honor academics, then the goal for academics is a 3.5 or higher. If you want to have a whoop-de-doo banquet and honor whatever you want, then have a whoop-de-doo banquet. But don't call it an academic banquet and then shun kids that don't know what bar they have to achieve. And, you know, I was very happy that Tyson Price chose to work with us for the elementary school, because after all, academics is why we're all here. You know, all of these kids have watched us take days off school to go to Charleston and support the sports and have parades. And then we had kids sitting here this evening that had, 3.87 or a 4.1 and weren't honored in the academic banquet. So I think something that the board really needs to discuss as we prepare for next year as to what exactly do we consider honored in an academic banquet.
I think that they're understanding that this academic banquet is a very sensitive issue and it's got people upset. I don't believe we can isolate the bar, just the academic banquet. I believe the bar is a far wider spectrum of, it includes a lot more things. And what there may or may not be an issue with how this is all done. I'm not well enough to even speak, to be honest with you.
Okay.
We do, I think that we, moving forward as a board, in Gilman County, and I say this every meeting, I've been with you a short time and haven't been able to spend the time with you I wish that I could have. Came from 130 miles away today. But not only here on this board, but Gilmer County as a whole, coming off of COVID, I believe we've got to get back to where we can agree to disagree on issues, because we have lost that. We've lost it as a whole. Our grandparents and great-grandparents would get together and they would have debates, and I forget what those things were called, but they'd gather in the schoolhouses. But the fact that we disagree, and I'm singling no one out here, but we as a culture in Central West Virginia get so upset now when things don't just happen the way we think we should. And I get caught up in that myself. But I think in order for us to move forward in our entirety, not just at the education, we've got to get back to where we can agree to disagree.
I agree with that, Brian, to some extent, the things that Hillary said. There's a lot of good things going on in Gilmer County, and the lady back there spoke to a lot of those Mrs. Yoder. We've done excellent things in athletics. We've done excellent things in academics. I go down to the Career Center, they've won national championship, state contest. There's been a lot of great things, but where are we academically? And where do we want to set that bar academically? Are being best in the state, last in the nation, where we want to be? Or do we want our kids to be able to go to school at West Virginia University and compete with kids that are coming from the other states that are outscoring us everywhere? So we as a board, when the new board is elected, need to decide what we really would like to see our school system develop into. And being the best of the worst is not always a good thing. So I think we need to think about that for next year. And like I said, there is a lot of good things here. A lot of things. I've observed the Career Center, and they talked about this earlier. The things the students learn, and the boy that was here who did the presentation, in their classes at the Career Center, there's a lot more to it than the academic achievement. There's leadership skills that these students develop, and I've seen it in the FFA, and I've seen it in C2E classes. The leadership skills they develop, the ability to speak to a group of people. These classes that many people consider non-academic career and technical education. I always get disturbed with these acronyms that they say CTE, and what's that? But CTE, career and technical education. And FFA is another good example. They learn things in FFA that you don't even imagine that they would learn. They learn leadership skills. They learn the ability to deal with people. They learn the social aspects of life. There's a lot of things that go along with these classes other than just the academic aspect. But that all being said, the academics are extremely important, and we're the board need to decide where we want that ball to be, and we need to work with our administrators and our other people to get to that ball.
My thing shut off right as she got to personnel. Where are y'all going?
But anyway, that's what I see us looking at when we get our board.
This is my last year, on this Board of Education. And I was part of the board that voted, for the change in the academic banquet. Do I think it still should be called an academic banquet? Maybe not. I think maybe renaming that. I think kids can be honored for their academic achievements still at their assembly of the school. But I think picking something that does raise that bar higher. You understand what I'm saying? That does say these people have good leadership skills or what have you, that are very important things that are necessary in career development as they leave school.
There's nothing to say
So,
we can't
I
hire
think-
lots of people.
We can, but I'm saying for this specifically, and again, if we have an awards assembly like most schools do, they have kids with 3.0 or higher and they all get their certificates, and that's wonderful and that's great. But there's not a reason why we can't push some of these harder. And if my kid wasn't invited, then I'd be the kind of person probably be like, I'm sorry, find out what you need to do to maybe push and get that the next year.
But that's
Not
just it.
saying,
What do they need to do?
well, and that's what I'm saying, moving forward, I think hopefully it would be helpful to know what the criteria is. Know what the criteria is. What do I need to work towards?
We need to set the bar, and then they need to adjust whatever they need to that bar.
But I do want to agree, unfortunately, we have all become a society, not just in Gilbert County, where everybody gets a participation rate. And it isn't the real world. And sometimes you set your kids up for failure, making them think that. So.
I think that talks down to the kids who got 4.0s.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I know that some of the stuff preceded my time on the board. I know this was controversial last year.
Yeah.
Was there not a request from the board for Mr. Putnam to explicitly put into the student handbook what was required? And did that happen?
Did you read it?
Well, then it's in the handbook, problem solved. It's in there, he did what was asked, we may not agree with it, but we can't come up after the fact and talk about we didn't understand
Well, I
it.
think we're
It's like my
talking about
students, they
next
don't read
grade.
the syllabus. They get upset because they flunked class and didn't realize I had an attendance policy. Sorry about that, you didn't read it. But if you didn't read it or you didn't understand it, I'm sorry, but he did what was asked.
Change who was invited. Because we didn't really know what
The other thing, we had luncheon. The luncheon, one cool thing about living in a small town is when something really awesome happens, we all hear about it, which is super cool. And my Facebook lit up after this luncheon. And my immediate thought as a board member was, how can we support this, man? This is something super cool that's going on. And you're right, you had a tough start to this because of COVID. And I think this is something that we should support. So I immediately sent an email to Tyson and CC'd it to Patty. And I said, I know the guests have to pay, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, man, if we could make this free, or at the very least, bring the cost back a little bit to make it more successful, why don't we do that? So with Tyson's permission, with the superintendent's permission, with the board's permission, I would like to start to solicit some donations for this for Thanksgiving, to try to see if we can at least, if we can't make it free to the parents, let's make it $2 if we can find the donations, if I can get the okay for that. So I'll start working on that if that's okay. The other thing, the performance with the jazz band on Tuesday, We always try to get the elementary schools in for the Christmas concert. I think they handle the Santa Claus is coming to town and the Winter Wonderland a little better. And we get the high schoolers in for the spring concert. They can handle some, more experimental stuff that's not Christmas music. But I want to let you all know that's no accident. That's because Gilmer County schools, whether it's the elementary school or high school, these are students who know how to behave. They know how to enjoy a show. There are some schools, I won't name any, but I go out and recruit a lot. There are some I don't think I could trust putting us through a dress rehearsal with them. As somebody who goes into a lot of high schools, a lot of schools, you can walk into a school immediately and sometimes know if the administration's got it under control or if the kids are running the asylum here. And the elementary school and the high school here, they know how to act. They know how to enjoy a show. And what my favorite part about it is they come into the Fine Arts building and they go, hey, can I go to the bathroom real quick? It's right down there. Or can we go into the art center here? Can we go in and take a look at the paintings? And that's because they've been in there. They're comfortable. Just like they're comfortable in their own school. They should be. That should happen at every building at Glenville State University. Whether they're in the science building, the education building, wherever they are, as liaison to the college, I want them to be comfortable anywhere on campus. So anytime we can set up, whether it's a jazz band performance or whether it's, I don't know, math field day or a reading day. I know the education department used to do a Dr. Seuss day. Anytime we can facilitate that, we want your students to be as comfortable on our campus as they are on yours. So anytime we can do that, please, I'd be happy to facilitate that. And we love having your kids on campus.
I love hearing the kids at the elementary school. I open my office window because I'm right at the nursing home. And anytime there's something exciting going on at the school, you can just hear, it's almost like the atmosphere outside of the school just changes and it's wonderful, absolutely. It's nice that we're getting back to some normal.
I agree.
So you're going to solicit donations, right?
Yes.
That's all right with me, do we? I mean, there's no reason he can't do that, is there?
I don't think so. He's doing
Yeah,
it. They have to as a person.
That's
Yeah.
all I got.
You got it. Got it.
And we'll see how we can spend it.
Happy to do it. Yes, sir.
I make a motion to adjourn if no one has anything else.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Oh.